My mother tossed my bag at me and said coldly, "Get out, loser." No hug, no smile, just that cutting tone, followed by the front door slamming shut behind me like I'd never been part of that house at all. If you're still here listening, stay close. Ever come home searching for love, only to be treated like you were invisible? 10 years I served in uniform. 10 years of combat, storms, long nights without sleep, folded flags, and watching people I cared about not make it home. I never expected a celebration, but I didn't expect this either. I stood silently on the porch, snow collecting in my eyelashes, feeling something in me shift. My brother looked out the window and laughed. "She probably wants money," he said. And my father, always quiet, just turned and walked away. So I did too. But not before I picked up that same duffel I had carried through war zones, now soaked in slush and my mother's contempt, and got on the next bus to the only place that had ever felt safe to me, Grandma Jean's. I didn't call. I just showed up. She opened the door slowly, her hands unsteady. When her eyes met mine, they didn't blink. Then she asked a question that shattered me. Why didn't they want you? I don't even remember falling, just her arms catching me before I hit the ground. That night, I slept beneath the same quilt I had as a child, in the same room I once decorated with stickers. Grandma brewed ginger tea, read psalms aloud, and gently whispered, "I'm so proud of you, baby." It helped. Not enough to heal everything, but enough to stop the bleeding. I thought that would be the end of it. But I was wrong. A week later, on a painfully bright morning, they showed up, my mother, my brother, and my father, standing outside Grandma's house, shivering, pale, pleading. My mother knocked softly. "Please, just open the door," she said. My brother added, "It's not what you think." But I didn't move. Because what I thought no longer mattered. What I knew was this: they had thrown me out like I was nothing. And now, I was the only one who could help them. To them, I had always been their embarrassment. Now, they would remember me as Elena Carter. I didn't speak. I simply stood there, watching through the screen door as the wind cut sharp patterns in the snow around their feet. My mother's eyes darted nervously, tears threatening to fall. My brother couldn't meet my gaze. And then, finally, my father spoke. "Elena, the bank froze everything." I blinked slowly. Then I turned to Grandma Jean. She sat quietly in her rocking chair, clutching her Bible like it was armor. She didn't even look at them. She just whispered, "You don't owe them anything, baby." And she was right. They owed me everything. And they knew it. While I had been putting my life on the line overseas, they'd taken out a second mortgage on the house, using my name. I had been listed as co-signer without my knowledge. And they defaulted on it. The money I sent home over the years, it wasn't saved. They'd spent it on my brother's college tuition, my mother's cosmetic surgeries, and my dad's business debts. By the time I came back, they had already lost the house. But legally, I was still attached to it. What they didn't expect. The house wasn't foreclosed yet. And with my military status, I could delay that foreclosure for exactly 60 days, time they desperately needed. My mother broke down, clinging to the porch rail, sobbing. "You don't understand. We were just trying to survive." I tilted my head slightly. "Funny. So was I." My brother stepped forward, more cautious now. "Come on, Elena. You've got a good job now. Just help us. We're still family." Family. That word, family, once meant something to me. Now, it just left a bitter metallic taste in my mouth. They hadn't reached out even once while I was overseas. Not a call. Not even when I nearly lost my leg in Mosul. But now that the power was shut off and the sheriff had come knocking, suddenly, I was their daughter again. I folded my arms. "I'll think about it," I said flatly. Their faces lit up as if I'd just handed them salvation. My mother even managed a smile. But none of them noticed what I hadn't said. Think about it. For who? Because I wasn't thinking about saving them. I was thinking about how to make them feel what I felt that night on the porch. How to let their pride rot from the inside the same way they tried to hollow me out. When I closed the door, my mother sobbed harder. But Grandma didn't flinch. She just rocked gently in her chair and murmured, "Let them drown in the silence they gave you." The next morning, I didn't sit down to write a plan or some hopeful letter. I wrote a list. Not of forgiveness, but of consequences. If they wanted my help, they'd have to earn it. On my terms. Not because I was being cruel, but because they needed to feel every crack, every jagged edge of the wall they had built between us. I arranged a meeting at the old community center downtown. No welcome signs. No coffee. Just cold metal chairs under flickering lights. They arrived late. My brother wore a suit, still playing the part. My mother dabbed her eyes like a performer on cue. My father couldn't even look at me. I didn't say much. Just slid a folder across the table. "Sign this," I told them. My mother leaned in, squinting. "What is it?" "A debt contract," I replied. "You'll repay every dollar you spent from the military deposits I sent home, with interest. I've already done the math. $143,700. Her jaw dropped. My brother scoffed. "This is ridiculous." I leaned forward, my voice steady. "You want me to delay the foreclosure? You'll work for it. Clean slates cost something now. And this time, my name matters." My mother's voice shook. "But we're your parents." "And I was your daughter," I said, eyes locked on hers. "When did that ever matter to you?" Silence. Then I added one final term. "If I stop the foreclosure, you're out in 30 days. The deed will be signed over to Grandma Jean. You don't get to stay there. Not now. Not ever." My brother shot up from his seat. "This is blackmail." "No," I answered calmly. "This is survival. The kind you never taught me." They didn't sign that night. But 2 days later, they returned. My mother's hand trembled as she took the pen. She signed first. My father followed, slower, but with no resistance. My brother slammed the pen down like it had betrayed him. And just like that, I owned everything they had left. But I wasn't done yet. I used GI Bill protections to legally freeze the foreclosure, shifted every utility temporarily into my name, and set strict deadlines. Power would be disconnected in 28 days. Water in 30. The countdown had begun. But here's what they didn't realize. I never planned on keeping that house either. Because real revenge isn't about restoring what they lost. It's about making sure they understand they never deserved it in the first place. From that day forward, they moved through the house like it was built on landmines, because in a way, it was. I'd given them 30 days to leave, and they treated it like a free hotel. But I kept my distance, and I watched. My brother tried charm. He sent me old photos of us as kids, followed by texts that said he missed me. My mother sent voice notes filled with tears, calling me sweetheart, as if it wasn't the same voice that once screamed loser at me through a slammed door. And my father. He stayed silent. That's when I knew. He was the one who feared me most. I never responded. Not once. Instead, I brought in a realtor friend and scheduled weekly walkthroughs of the property. Each visit, she'd ask the same question, loud enough to echo. "When's the official move-out date again?" Their faces drained of color a little more every time. On day 17, my mother called Grandma Jean in a fit of tears. "She's heartless," she sobbed. "We're her family." Grandma didn't flinch. "No," she said firmly. "I'm her family. You're just the people who taught her pain." On day 21, I filed the paperwork to list the house at public auction. The proceeds, all going to a local veterans shelter. I didn't want the house. I wanted peace. But I also wanted this memory etched permanently into their lives. A reminder. You don't get to break someone and then ask them to put you back together. My brother showed up the next night at Grandma's door. Just a little more time, he begged. We'll pay it back. Mom's not doing well. I met his eyes without blinking. Neither was I said, when you all turned your backs on me. He let out a heavy sigh. I made mistakes. No, I replied. You made choices. And then I closed the door again. On day 28, I sent out the emails. Power termination at 6 p.m. Water shutoff in 48 hours. Final lockout in 72. At 6:02, my mother called, screaming, sobbing, accusing. You're evil, she shouted. But I wasn't. I was just done. Done being the afterthought. Done being the soldier no one welcomed home. They turned away when I needed warmth, so now they could sit in the cold. That night, the temperature dropped to 18 degrees. No lights. No heat. No comfort. Just silence, and the soft ticking of pipes under pressure. I didn't drive by. I didn't need to. The utility company confirmed the shutoff. I let the silence speak for me. Grandma Jean sat beside me on the couch that evening, knitting calmly, a quiet force of nature, ruling her domain with steady hands. Funny thing about the cold, she said gently, eyes on her stitches. It doesn't kill you. It just shows you who you are. Day 29. I woke up to a knock on her door. It was my father. No pride. No excuses. Just a worn face that looked decades older than I remembered. Shame had hollowed him out. I didn't know they used your name, he muttered. Your mother. She handled all the paperwork. His voice faded. Cowards always trail off. You watched them throw me out, I said quietly. And you did nothing. He nodded. I know. Then, without a word, he handed me a small box. Inside, sealed and untouched, were the letters I had sent home from the field, every one of them unopened. Not one of those letters had been opened. Not a single one. My breath caught in my chest. My throat tightened. My father spoke softly, almost to himself. She told us they were just you venting. Said they didn't matter. But they did matter. They were the only thing keeping me grounded back then, the only connection I had left. And they'd tossed them aside like they meant nothing. Why now? I asked, holding the box like it weighed the world. He looked up at me, eyes rimmed with regret. Because the house is freezing cold, and now I finally understand what you must have felt all those years. I didn't comfort him. I didn't yell either. I simply closed the door. Sometimes, dignity sounds like the click of a lock. By nightfall, the sheriff had posted the final notice, eviction within 24 hours. Neighbors stood silently in their driveways as my brother moved boxes under a dim porch light. My mother pleaded with him to fix it, but there was nothing left to fix. The daughter they cast aside now held the final chapter of their story. And me. I was in Grandma Jean's kitchen, sipping warm tea, watching the steam curl upward, quiet, steady, like victory without a sound. Revenge doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it arrives like frost. Cold, creeping, and undeniable. Day 30, eviction day. They didn't go quietly. Of course not. The sheriff knocked at 10 a.m. sharp. By 10:07, my mother was shouting about her rights. By 10:10, my brother was arguing with the deputy like logic could undo a signed deed. And by 10:30, their belongings sat in plastic bins on the front lawn. I didn't show up. I didn't need to. I'd already sent a moving crew ahead of time, not to help them, but to retrieve the only thing that still mattered to me from that house, an old photo album. Just pictures of me and Grandma Jean. My real family. Everything else, let it rot. By noon, the neighbors had gathered like spectators. Some whispered, some filmed. A few offered fake help. Most just watched. Because when people who play the victim finally get exposed, the world doesn't rush to save them, it just watches the fall. At 2 p.m., my brother texted me. "This is cruel. You're humiliating us." I replied with just one line. "You did that to me first." That night, I drove past the house. Just once. Not to gloat. Just to see the moment when silence spoke louder than their years of dismissal. My mother sat wrapped in the blanket she used to mock. Now, it was all she had. My father leaned against a suitcase, eyes hollow and lost. And my brother, he stood there staring at the for sale sign like it was written in fire. I didn't stop. Just parked half a block away and watched as the moving truck pulled off, empty. They were headed to a motel. One of those hourly rate ones near the highway. I knew because I had booked it. One night. Prepaid. No more. That was the cost of pretending I didn't exist until they needed me. That was justice. Not born of anger, but patience. I didn't wave. Didn't cry. Didn't even honk. I turned the ignition, pulled away, and left them exactly where they had left me that Christmas night. Outside. Alone. In the cold. A week passed. There were no more calls. No more texts. No more guilt. Just silence, this time on my terms. I bought a modest house on the edge of town. Nothing extravagant. 2 bedrooms, a red front door, and peace. Grandma Jean moved in with me. She brought her tea tins, her favorite rocking chair, and the kind of laughter that sounds like healing. We painted the living room together. A warm yellow. Sunshine, she called it. Because we both knew, real warmth isn't found in people who push you out. It's in the ones who open the door without being asked. Word spread eventually. I heard my brother tried to land a job at a tech company, failed the background check. Someone had flagged his fake credentials. My mom. She was staying with a woman from church, but rumors floated around about donation funds for her treatment mysteriously vanishing. My dad. Gone. Disappeared, like a ghost ashamed of its own reflection. But I wasn't keeping tabs. I was rebuilding me. I started mentoring other veterans, teaching high school students about leadership and survival. Becoming the voice I never had when I needed it most. One afternoon, during a fundraiser, a reporter stopped by. I heard about the house sale, she said. How it helped fund the new shelter. People are calling you a quiet hero. I smiled gently and shook my head. I'm not a hero, I said. I'm just someone who got tired of being erased. She nodded. Sometimes the quietest people leave the loudest mark. That evening, I sat with Grandma on the porch, warm cider in hand, under a sky full of stars. She looked over at me and said, "You took their cruelty and turned it into kindness. That's real power, baby." And for the first time, I believed her, because I had finally learned. Forgiveness isn't about letting them back in. It's about walking past the wreckage and never needing to look back. I didn't get revenge with fire or fury. I got it with a whisper, a closed door, and the strength to never knock on theirs again. It was a quiet Sunday morning when the knock came, soft, unsure, familiar. I opened the door slowly, not afraid, just curious. It was my brother. He looked smaller somehow, not physically, but in presence. Like life had finally humbled him. He held a crumpled paper bag in his hands, eyes flickering toward mine but never quite meeting them. "I brought muffins," he said. "From Mom. She remembered you liked lemon poppy." I didn't move. Didn't reach for the bag. He cleared his throat. She's sick. For real this time. The hospital says it's stage 2 liver failure. No insurance. No safety net. Still, I said nothing. She's sorry, he added. I tilted my head. Is she? I asked calmly. Or just out of options again? He had no answer. That silence between us, it didn't sting anymore. It was familiar now. And this time, I let it stretch out. Finally, he said softly, Dad's gone. Left in January. We don't know where. And me. I'm trying. I studied his face. The guilt was there. Maybe even the effort. But my forgiveness wasn't something you claimed like a forgotten paycheck. It wasn't a door prize for showing up late. I opened the door slightly wider. He stepped forward, hopeful. But I raised my hand. Not to welcome him, to stop him. You're not welcome here, I said gently. Not yet. Maybe not ever. His face fell. But he didn't argue. He didn't beg. Instead, he placed the paper bag on the porch, gave a small nod, and turned to leave. No tantrums. No tears. Just quiet acceptance. I stood there for a moment, hand resting on the doorframe, breathing in the stillness. Then I tossed the muffins in the trash. That night, I sat down and wrote one final letter, not to them, but to myself. A letter of gratitude. A thank you for surviving, for becoming my own safe place, for learning that the deepest form of revenge is never needing theirs again. I lit a candle, whispered a prayer, not for their healing, but for mine. And this time I meant it. Then I turned off the porch light, not in anger, but because I no longer needed anyone to find their way back to me.